What if you were watching One Piece, but everything was the opposite? Yeah, what if the Straw Hats were the opposite of who they are? For example, Zoro. Instead of always getting lost, he now never gets lost, and he always knows the way. Yeah, no more of Zoro just wandering off or getting lost when people literally point to where he should go. And especially no more ending up in literally different animes. Now he's basically Google Maps with swords. Yeah, he'd seriously be the most overpowered navigator ever. He could literally take the crew straight to Laugh Tale since he always knows the way to everything. But Nami, instead of being a navigation pro, she's now absolutely terrible at navigation. She just never knows her way and always gets lost. Yeah, she's basically the old Zoro 2.0, which means that with Nami as the Straw Hats navigator, they would be doomed. She'd sail them straight into an iceberg or a literal marine base without even realizing it. And just like the old Zoro, Nami would just be wandering away. And even if you literally point her in the right direction, she would still go the wrong way. But she wouldn't just always get lost, she would also be ugly. Yeah, everyone thought the old Nami was super hot. Remember at Water 7 when everyone was just drooling over her and she posed for her first bounty photo just because the photographer said she could be a model? Well, not anymore. Because Nami is now super ugly and no one simps for her anymore. Not even Sanji. But talking about Sanji, he's up next. Because you know how obsessed he was with women, right? Yeah, well, he's now obsessed with men. Yup, instead of drooling over Nami and Robin, he's now fainting every time Zoro takes his shirt off. Although yeah, that would absolutely piss Zoro off all the time. Anyway, Sanji being obsessed with men is a real problem for the crew. Why? Well, because if Sanji comes up against a man, it's game over. Because just like how the old Sanji would never lay a hand on a woman, the opposite Sanji would never lay a hand on a man. So that means that the Straw Hats just lost one of their strongest fighters, as he wouldn't have fought against Queen, King, Virgo, Jabra, or any of the men he came up against. Although he would have absolutely wrecked Black Maria and Khalifa. Oh, and let's not forget, if Sanji ever ends up surrounded by buff, shirtless dudes, he'd probably straight up die from getting such a huge nosebleed. But let's move on and talk about Usopp. And instead of being a total liar, he can now only tell the truth. Yeah, you know how he's been saying that he's the true captain of the Straw Hats? Or how he's got 8,000 followers and that he's taken down a giant goldfish? Well, now he can't say those things, as every word that comes out of his mouth is 100% true. So he would instead say things like, I know I'm the weakest on the crew and a complete crybaby at times. But honestly, that's actually a really good thing. Because now, everyone would believe everything he says. For example, when he screamed, "Pirates are coming!" at Syrup Village, everyone would now be running, as they know everything Usopp says is the truth. Next up, the former dumbest character in One Piece, Luffy, as he's now the smartest character in the entire series. Yup, this guy wouldn't eat poisonous fish, he wouldn't fall for Crocodile's super obvious trap, and he absolutely wouldn't ask a literal zombie tree and a zombie unicorn to join the crew. That said, if Luffy was a genius, he would also be way weaker. Wait, what? You might have thought that a genius Luffy would be even stronger, but nope, because seeing as Luffy is, well, an idiot and doesn't think, he does things like charging into government strongholds like Marineford, Enies Lobby, and Impel Down without a second thought, or even a plan. Oh, and don't forget burning the world government flag and fighting Kaido one-on-one after literally almost dying 3 times. Yeah, all of these things were stupid, but it's because of Luffy's recklessness that he's been able to fight, learn, and get stronger. So a smarter Luffy would absolutely not do these reckless things, or put the crew in these super dangerous situations. But he also wouldn't be as strong. So stupid Luffy is just the best. Another Straw Hat we need to talk about is Chopper, and everyone knows how cute and wholesome this guy is. But now, he's a total perv. Yeah, this little menace would use his cuteness to bathe with the girls and get sneak peeks at Nami and Robin in the women's quarters. He would also be Brook and Sanji's #1 enemy. Yeah, I'm sorry, this just sounds so wrong. Next up, Nico Robin. And instead of being this calm and mature woman, she's now hot-tempered and super aggressive. Like, instead of calmly helping Luffy out with his problems, she screams and rages at him. Yeah, she's basically the new Nami. Plus, whenever someone in the crew does something stupid, Robin's right there with that terrifying death stare. However, she's actually gonna be even stronger now. Yeah, her Demonio Fleur form, which is based from her Devil Child title, will now be insanely powerful, as she will embrace the demon inside of her with her rage, making her Demonio Fleur form even stronger and even scarier. But alright, let's take a quick break from the Straw Hats and talk about Mihawk, because instead of the strongest swordsman in the world, he's now the weakest. Yep, he's now known throughout the world as the weakest swordsman ever, and everyone just laughs when they hear his name, as he's just that weak. He even goes around challenging different swordsmen, but he loses every single time. Now what about Boa Hancock? Well, you know how she's super in love with Luffy? We're talking full-on daydreaming about marrying him. Yeah, well, all of those dreams are now gone, as she's friend-zoned him. Instead of blushing whenever she hears his name, she now wouldn't even care. She would just see him as another disgusting man, and she would absolutely not help him with his problems. Like she wouldn't sneak him into Impel Down, she wouldn't help him at Marineford, and worst of all, she would not give him this mountain of meat. So your favorite ship is dead. Moving on to Big Mom, and instead of having 85 children, she now has 0. That means that Katakuri, Perospero, Smoothie, Pudding, and the other kids don't exist anymore. Which also means that the Big Mom Pirates is just her. But that's honestly kinda terrifying, because without her kids to hold her back, like when she goes completely insane when she's got her hunger pangs, she's just gonna be this unstoppable monster all the time. Next up, Buggy, and instead of being this super weak and just pathetic pirate, he's now the strongest character in the world. Yeah, instead of being terrified of everyone and being an emperor because of pure luck, he's now the most feared man in the world. As with his Chop Chop fruit, he's slicing through admirals like nothing and splitting islands in half. And his crew, they now follow him out of pure respect. Like Mihawk and Crocodile, they're now his underlings. The world government fears his name, the Marines avoid his territory, and everyone knows that in this world, Buggy D Clown is the true king of the pirates. But instead of the strongest, we've got the weakest creature in the world, and that's Kaido. Yeah, instead of being that unkillable monster who can tank gear 5 punches, getting sliced, and fighting like 10 different people at once, this Kaido will literally get blown away with just a puff of wind. He can't cut paper, he hurts his hand when trying to throw a punch, and he just cries all the time. This guy is just so weak. Talking about Kaido, we gotta talk about Yamato as well, because instead of wanting to become Odin, she now wants to become Kaido. Or, well, the old Kaido, the strong one. Anyway, instead of idolizing Odin and dreaming of opening Wano's borders, Yamato has now fully embraced her father's ideology, as she's all about domination, control, and proving that the strong rule over the weak. So yeah, she's basically Kaido Jr., which I guess she technically already was. Now we gotta start talking about some of the Marines, and first up is Koby. And instead of dreaming of becoming an admiral and a hero of justice in the Marines, he now wants to become the king of the pirates. Yeah, you heard that right. This guy's trading in his Marine cap for a straw hat, because after being with the Alvida Pirates for a while, he realized how fun it is to be a pirate. So he would train his hardest and eventually take over the Alvida Pirates as their new captain by sending Alvida flying. Still, even though he would be a total menace as a pirate, yelling that he'll one day find the One Piece and become the king of the pirates, he'd be pretty weak. Yup, the only reason Koby is as strong as he is today is because of Garp's hockey training. So without it, he's just gonna be a weak pirate captain who would eventually get taken down by some other pirates. Another Marine we gotta talk about is Aka Inu, who we all know is this super angry, strict, and almost evil Marine. But now, he's the kindest Marine ever. Instead of preaching about his evil way of justice, like killing all the pirates, blowing up innocent islands, and obliterating entire ships with innocent people, he's now out here talking about kindness. Yeah, he's just the nicest guy ever, and he wants the Marines to live peacefully together with the pirates. And instead of fighting Aokiji for the fleet admiral role, he's Aokiji's biggest supporter. Yeah, I know it just sounds weird, but Aka Inu is now the nicest Marine ever. Then we've got Kizaru, who went from being lightspeed fast to painfully, unbearably slow. This guy is basically just in slow motion all the time, and because of that, he's also the weakest admiral ever. Like, if he tries to kick someone, his kick won't even be able to land in time until he's been kicked away himself. But hey, even though he moves in slow motion, he talks super fast. Like, remember how Kizaru literally looked high all the time and talked really slow? He now talks so insanely fast that people don't even understand him. But moving on to Garp, and instead of being the hero of the Marines, he's now the shame of the Marines. Because instead of capturing legendary pirates like Roger and being known throughout the world for his insane strength and dedication to the Marines, he's now a corrupt Marine who constantly let pirates slip away on purpose. And to make things worse, the world government heard rumors that Garp even saved Roger's son, Ace. So now he's branded as the shame of the Marines. But since there's no solid proof that he let pirates escape or that he helped Ace, they can't actually fire him, which means Garp is still technically a Marine. But yeah, everyone looks at him with disgust. But let's go back to the Straw Hats, because Brook, he's now a human. We all know Brook's insanely tragic backstory. His entire crew died in the Florian Triangle, and Brook died too. But he came back to life thanks to the Revive fruit. Well, except his soul got lost, so by the time it returned, he was literally a skeleton. But as this is the opposite of One Piece, that means that the Revive fruit actually gave him his full human body back. Yup, no more boner skull jokes. But yeah, that's actually not that good. Why? Well, Brook actually won't be as strong anymore, and especially not as fast, because being a skeleton made him insanely fast, light, and agile. Like the man could literally run on water because he weighed nothing. But hey, at least Brook gets his body back. Next up is Franky, and instead of being a weird, loud, half-naked cyborg, he's now a normal, calm, and sophisticated gentleman. This Franky wears a tuxedo and drinks tea instead of cola. He also doesn't build battleships or giant mechas anymore, he's more into modern art. And instead of punching people with his iron fists or using his Franky General to demolish his enemies with a radical beam, he now just debates them respectfully. Yeah, he's now pretty useless. And another Straw Hat who's now basically useless is Jinbe, because he now literally can't swim. Yup, he's gonna be the only fishman ever who can't even swim. Forget zooming through the ocean and sinking battleships with his insane water attacks. Now, he gotta stay on the sunny all the time if he doesn't want to drown. Yeah, I know, it's just really sad. Would you watch One Piece if it was the opposite? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and watch this video next.